Moderator after I introduce her. Frida is a value-based bidding and creative specialist for Google Mexico. She previously worked as a data scientist and leader of the artificial intelligence development area for Justo and data planner manager for Banco Santander, Mexico. She has also collaborated independently with public and private companies such as the government of Morelos, Conavim, Caterpillar, UN Women, Mexican Banks Association, Epic Queen, Banco del Bajío, Nestle, Riskmathics, Grihana, among others. Impacting more than 3,000 women since 2018 in various industries. She has a Bachelor of Sciences in Actuarial Science and a Bachelor of Science in Corporate Finance and Banking from the Universidad Anáhuac, Mexico. She has diplomas in FinTech and Big Data and Data Science from ITESM and has a specialization in the Design of Future from Centro University. She is currently studying a diploma in quantum computing at Anáhuac Maya University. She is the founder of the AI, the New Sexy podcast, broadcasted on multiple streaming platforms, addressing the implications of artificial intelligence in various industries and contexts, where she creates a safe space for women to bring their own point of view and concerns from their industry. Welcome, Frida.
Thank you.
And I'm just going to say as well, super quick, for our speakers and our moderators, if you don't mind just keeping an eye on me. I've been asked to be more master, less ceremony, so more mastery in the time. So just make sure to look at me and I will kind of give you an idea of how fast you should be speeding things up, basically. Yeah. Okay, thank you, Frida.
Okay, thank you so much. Yeah, please, if you can come here. Okay. Okay. Okay, I think we are ready. Yeah. Okay, so now let's start. Good morning and welcome to our panel discussion, Mexicans in the AI ecosystem. Today, we are joined by STEM professionals who navigate the journey between Mexico and Canada, contributing significantly to the field of AI and scientific research. I'm so glad to be here because their diverse experience illuminate the collaborative potential between the two nations in the shaping of the future of AI. So, well, I'm going to start making some questions because we have here huge minds, huge researchers that I will be glad to ask some questions about your background. So, first of all, I would like to start with Professor Adem. Professor Adem, sorry. And well, I would like to share some information about Professor Adem, who is a mathematician, and he's the president of the NSERC, whose career journey from Mexico City and leading to one of Canadians' premier scientific councils. And I am very sure that he is very inspirational for many people here. So, Professor Adem, could you share with us how your Mexican heritage has influenced your leadership within Canada's AI and scientific research ecosystem?
Thank you very much. So first I want to thank the Mexican Embassy, State of Jalisco, all the participants here, the sponsors. This thing is a great occasion. I myself, I am Canadian and I'm also Mexican. I'm very proud of the joint heritage that I have. And you see here before you, Mexicans living in Canada playing a role in the science and innovation ecosystem. So as president of NSERC, as Sean mentioned in his presentation, we of course fund research in natural sciences and engineering across the country with large international collaborations. As the previous CEO of MyTax, of course, many of these programs that Oliverio talked about, I remember when we were starting them up, so fantastic to be a part of that development. So what I can say is that Mexico has some fantastic universities, fantastic training that all of us here present benefited from. So I had my undergraduate degree from the National University of Mexico. I'm very proud of what we learned there. We learned science, we learned how to think, but we learned in a public university with, I don't know how many, 200,000 students at the time. We also learned about society because we sat together with people from all backgrounds, and we learned the importance of science in helping society, making it move forward and having impact. So I take that with me on my, okay, I have a whole, my travels are, rather long. So I did my PhD in the US at Princeton University. Then I was a faculty member in the US. And then one day I got a call from Canada. Would you apply for a position at the University of British Columbia, where I was very pleased to take that position as the Canada Research Chair and as a mathematical researcher. But Canada, being a country of immigrants, is very open to inviting folks like us to take on leadership roles. So before you knew it, I was on this path for leadership. But what I can say is that what we learned in Mexico, I always go back to what I learned from my professors, from my parents, from Mexican society, and say, well, how can we apply those learnings, that experience, to what is happening here in Canada? So it is, if you want, a merger, a blending of the different cultural traditions. And as I was talking to our friends here in the embassy, Mexico is a world power in culture, in food, in music, many, many different things. But we're also an emerging power in science and innovation. And we have to say that. And if I may say so, the biggest grant ever given by the Canadian government in research and innovation was given to a professor originally from Mexico at the University of Toronto, who is his mentor. And here on the stage, we have a Canada Excellence Research Chair who is now leading the Institut Courtois, which is a fantastic initiative based at the Université de Montréal. So I guess that's what I can say in brief. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. It's very inspiring that you're still having this heritage and this specific love for our country, and you have been taking all this knowledge to this country. So thank you for that, and thank you for spreading all this knowledge in the scientific innovation here. So next, we have Jorge Arturo Campos Gonzalez, whose interdisciplinary journey from chemistry to machine learning in material science at the University of Toronto showcases the evolving nature of AI applications. So this is quite an interesting background because it's very specific, and also I think it's one of the things that I think about AI. AI is just a tool. So as a tool, you can apply to many fields, and when you have such a specific and technical background, you can build amazing stuff. So Jorge, how was your academic background from Mexico to Canada shape your research in AI and its applications in material science?
Well, thank you. I'd like to thank the Mexican Embassy for having me here. I'd like to thank all of you. And thank you, Frida, for your question. Well, as Professor Alejandro was saying, I think the education level in Mexico is excellent. It prepared me very well to be in the international scene just out of college. I had a very successful PhD stage of my life. And one of the things that Mexico allowed me to do was explore other aspects of what I was interested in. For instance, I am a chemist, but very early on, I was even more interested in physics. So my bachelor's thesis was led by a physicist. And because of that, I turned into a theoretical chemist. Now, a lot of people ask me, like, what's a theoretical chemist? And for a long time, my answer was, well, I do chemistry without ever stepping into a lab. So I basically use physics to develop mathematical models so that I can do chemistry on a computer. How will that be interesting? Well, if you do chemistry on a computer, you actually can save a lot of resources, you can save a lot of energy. That can be debatable, but you can save a lot of environmental impact, for instance. Now, yes, as Frida was hinting, I had like this very specific training that made me think that, well, you should always understand the science behind things, behind the phenomena that you're observing. But then machine learning, artificial intelligence blew up. And then we started to realize that there's a different way to look at science. There are new ways to find patterns that can afterwards be analyzed. After having this realization and after finishing my PhD, I decided to join Alana Spuru's Matter Lab here in Canada, the University of Toronto. And he takes these ideas from theoretical chemistry to the next stage. And by that, I mean, if we know that by performing experiments on a computer, we can save some time, we can accelerate the discovery of materials. And in particular, we focus on drug discovery, but also materials for what one could argue are more pressing situations, like we work in energy efficient materials, we work on batteries, but I guess the main project that we're undergoing is developing strategies where this mathematical modeling and this computer-aided way of doing science can accelerate every stage of materials discovery. So basically, we try to make different devices, different hardware to produce a bunch of possible candidates informed by these mathematical models, different chemicals that might have the property that we want, and then we gather data, we analyze it with those models again, and that helps decide the machinery itself if it needs to synthesize a new instance. So this is actually a giant effort. There's a lot of advancement in that direction, but it requires plenty of work still. Also, another very interesting thing where interdisciplinarity shows up very explicitly is that, well, we want to have these technologies available to well, experts in materials or organic chemists. And while we advocate for coding to be an elementary skill, we don't expect these scientists to be also experts on computer science. So how can we facilitate them having access to all this automation? Well, now that we know that chatbots are so successful and they're based on large language models, we're also working in how to convert scientific protocols or even just normal speech between organic chemists into something that these computers can understand in order to produce the new chemicals and new substances that we're after. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot going on, and I think that the opportunities and the way my background allowed me to expand my horizons helped me, and well, to follow on Alan's steps to some extent, but also to interact with these very diverse and multidisciplinary environment.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Campos, for sharing with us this transformative potential in material science and also between artificial intelligence. So I would like to move on to Professor Carlos Silva, who is a leader in study organic and hybrid semiconductors materials. Okay, here you have. And his work in optical and electronic properties is at the forefront of chemical physics. So, Professor Silva, in your experience and in your extensive career, how do you see international collaboration, particularly between Canada and Mexico, advancing in research in photonic materials? Sorry. So, yeah, how it's advancing this kind of research about photonic materials?
Yes, so thank you for the question, and before I answer, I would like to also thank the Mexican Embassy, Nancy, who has done a lot of work to prepare for this. Thank you very much, and I am very honored and pleased to be part of this discussion, as well a dual Mexican Canadian citizen who is interested in bridging the two countries. Science and technology in a very general way is an international activity, and it becomes more and more so. You know, local interest, local development of science and technology is important everywhere. Education, getting people interested, getting people involved in science in a way that expands a pool as NSERC values in a very equitable way. But then there is a need for countries to collaborate both formally and informally in order to really optimize impact in science and technology. And so this is something that has always been the case, but it becomes more and more important. And so the importance is high. I would say that the international activity in terms of collaboration is also something that increases all the time. And it's not just a matter of mobility of students and personnel and talent, although that is a very important foundation of it. Mexico, as we have an excellent example here, and I think as we all are examples in this panel, has a very large pool of talent and of people that are very interested and very hungry for the opportunities to participate in this internationalization of science. And so there's a pool in Canada. There's also a pool of talent, and formal mechanisms for people to be able to do so is our key. So that means not only National Research Council support for that, Mexican CONACYT, here NSERC and so on, but as well the network aspects of it, which are very important, and that's one of the main objectives of events like this. And so really identifying what are the right points of contact for specific interactions. We're here talking about AI specifically, and so I would say that Canada is very active in this front, and it just happens to be that the Mexican representation in that is high. And so with Toronto, Alan Asprugusik and I, who it just happens to be that we've known each other for many, many years, joke about this, that I think it's high time to establish a Tren Maya 2 between Toronto and Montreal, to really try to make a corridor for innovation in this sense. And so really the networking very at the microscopic level, at the individual level, really establishing the right platforms for communications. I'm very interested to talk about our partners in Jalisco. I'm very, very connected to LUNAM in Mexico City. I have collaborations that are both formal and informal. I'm very active in establishing joint master's programs, for example, between UNAM and the Universidad de Montreal. I'm very active in Simvestab. I have an honorary professor appointment in Simvestab Mérida, so the Guayabera, and so there are people like us that are very connected, very interested in establishing this connection and expanding them. So the opportunities for that are always very welcome. And so really networking is really key, but we do need very active support from our governments in order to establish mechanisms for people to be able to move and collaborate. So we're talking about training, for example, this joint master's program that I'm interested in. We're talking about visits, hosting visitors in the context of collaboration, as well as having opportunities to react to just new opportunities. And so there's this new idea that is developing. We can work together on this. We identify where the impact will be, but we really need the support to make it happen. And I would say that this is an important part of the process. So yes.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. And I want to point out that last comment where you say that we have to work on how the government help us, or give to us support for this kind of activities, and also how can we collaborate. I have another point that it's very of my own. I used to be a student some years ago, so it has been for me very important to see how these collaborations could open, like, not only opportunities, it has opened also our point of view of how can we apply some different technologies. And here we have different kind of research that maybe in Mexico we are not aware of. So this is also a part of how can we develop new things for our countries. Also, another thing that it's very important that I want to make it clear and I want to talk about, that it's that having this collaboration also help us to improve our quality of life. Here we have a lot of opportunities, and also here we have also this collaborative spirit. So it's not just good for Mexico, it's also good for Canada. And I find it very rich in this collaboration. It's one of the most amazing things because it helps us both. So talking about that, I would like to ask another finally question to the Professor Adem, and then I would like to do another question for all the panel. And well, this is very important for me because we have had talking about how we can move into research, but also I would like to know more about how can we make this research into applications, into projects that it's not just only theoretical, but also can impact lives. So, Professor Adem, what opportunities do you see Mexican students and researchers have in this Canadian ecosystem, especially under your leadership in NSERC?
Well, I guess I want to back up a little bit and just mention that Canada has a very well-developed AI strategy. We have the Pan-Canadian AI strategy. It was announced in 2017. And I would say inspired, based, and originated from the pioneers of AI who are Canadian, Joshua Bengio at William Montreal and Jeffrey Hinton at University of Toronto, who started AI with these theoretical projects funded by NSERC, if I may say so, that no one understood where they were going on neural networks and things of that kind. And then with the computational power and the brilliance of the field, evolved into what we're seeing now with huge applications. Now, the Pan-Canadian AI strategy made key investments to allow that research to be mobilized. So that's the principle of, you create knowledge, you have to invest in blue skies, open research, and then these ideas will then, with a proper nurturing, pick up and be mobilized to provide benefits to society. So it's a very elaborate process. CFAR is the leading organization on the Pan-Canadian AI strategy. And you have Canada has 10% of the top AI specialists in the world, thanks to this tradition that we have. And there are institutes in Montreal, Mila, there's the Vector Institute in downtown Toronto, and they are building these partnerships with industry and mobilizing the work done in AI to society. Now, it's work in progress, and Canada faces its own challenges in terms of scaling up startups. Canada is very good at the startup world, building companies of a certain size that stick, because we do have a big neighbor to the south between Canada and Mexico that many times captures a lot of what we're doing. So, but the point of programs like my tax program, for example, getting students to share time in industry while they're doing their degrees, so that then they can learn the technologies, they can learn entrepreneurship. NSERC has a program called Eye to Eye, Invention to Innovation, where it facilitates prototyping and getting these highly technical folks at the universities to learn how to commercialize their projects. And just very recently, we launched a program called Lab to Market. It wants to do this systematically across all of Canada. So get the universities to marshal their people, their students, and their programs to have this entrepreneurial thinking, so that all this knowledge can be mobilized to obtain the results that all Canadians want to see. Now, the reason we get money from the government to then give out is because they want to see benefits to the Canadian citizens, right? So that's the bottom line of what we do. So we have to be delivering. But that doesn't mean that we shouldn't support pure research, all sorts of research, because no one can predict what research will get you that fantastic technology. So you have this whole cycle, the coexisting of high-level, deep theoretical research with its mobilization, commercialization, and dealing with the whole aspect of entrepreneurship. So this is what we're aiming to do, and this is a whole of Canada effort, not just NSERC. We're focused on trying to get, it's a knowledge-based economy, and how we can make that effective and bring the benefits that all Canadians would like to see.
Okay, just our final question. I think that we are running out of time. Well, okay, we have 5 minutes left. It's okay. So I will ask a question for all of our panelists. Maybe it's a little bit hard because it's very deep question, but we'll try to answer like in just few words, or maybe yeah, we can do it. Okay. So my question is, how can we make this this relationship between research and applications more inclusive? And I'm talking about inclusion because when we move maybe to another country, we have to keep our culture on mind, and we have to preserve some of our values, and take in consideration that our region, specifically talking about Mexico, has their own challenges. So how can we preserve that values, that challenges in mind, to then apply and make that what Professor Adem said, like moving this knowledge to other regions? So how can we make it more inclusive? How can we really make to work for both countries, not just for one? Maybe how can we address the challenges that we have in our country to make it possible to work for both sides, for both nations? So in your experience, for example, Jorge, what do you think? What challenges do you think we can solve with this relation, and talking about Mexican problems?
Okay, so one of the main goals in our lab is the democratization of science and the resources that we develop. In that regard, like I can even give a concrete example. We developed the concept of the frugal twin, which, well, basically our idea is to establish self-driving labs. So have all these different processes where we end up discovering a new material. But we need testing for that. So is it possible to have a less stakes version of what we want to implement and then try it somewhere else? So, and this is actually a collaboration that has already had some results with people from the National University in Mexico. So if we can have a mimic of the self-driving lab doing some of the similar things, but with less resources, that also provides useful information. So basically, just well, this is a very concrete example, but this is a way in which other places can have access and collaborate directly with this discovery and these advancements, even if the resources or the funding is kind of limited.
Okay, perfect. So let's move with Professor Silva and finally Professor Adem.
Yes, so this is a very important point, and that in the same token that science is an international endeavor, it's also a multicultural endeavor, necessarily so. And so one has to be aware of about what that entails, and this is something that in general academia it's a project for an academic culture and academic environment that is ongoing. This is why for NSERC, EDI is a very important value, and that is the case for many of us. And so something that I think is very important is the role of mentorship. And so whenever at any point in one's career, but particularly because mobility is so high, really having well-established mechanisms for mentorship, and that means for those of us in academia, really proper training and proper development of ideas of something that is known as culturally responsive mentoring, meaning that one is able and in a position to mentor people not only that one is sort of familiar with in terms of their background, one sees where they come from, but other cultures as well. And that's a mechanism that's important to develop in academia. And so I would say this is sort of a very important project for us in academia.
Yeah, thank you very much. And finally, Professor Adem.
Well, we obviously have very important policies for equity, diversity, and inclusion. That includes working with disaggregated data about the applications and the success rates over the different underrepresented groups. So this is a key priority. There's also a new way of evaluating proposals, fairer method for research assessment. It's called DORA principles. We've subscribed to that, not just counting the number of papers an applicant has or if they're famous, but really looking at the impact, their mentorship, and what their value to society is of what they do. Open science is, of course, key, and it was mentioned before. Open science, if we're publicly funded, the results we fund should be available on day one that they're published. This should be available to the community. We have committed to full open access in December 2025. That's a very important thing. And now, in terms of the binational between Mexico and Canada, creating streams in both directions, it's very important. The old model that we would just attract Mexican students here and then they wouldn't go back, there wouldn't be any reciprocal travel, reciprocal benefits. I've trained about 10 Mexican students and postdocs, and all except maybe one or two are back in Mexico, working at UNAM, Simvestav, other places like that. They're professors there, or they're doing research or in industry. So absolutely, we can do in both directions and fully integrate the kind of societies and in both sides, but also building in industry, right? And we saw a great example of industry that is straddling the two countries. You want to build in the whole innovation science ecosystem on both sides of the border. And if people like us can help bridge those gaps, well, I think we're available here to help.
Thank you very much. Well, I want to thank all our panelists for giving us great examples and such a great answers about their individual contributions, and also all these examples about sorry, this collaboration between the both countries. So thank you very much. I hope we still working together. We have a long way to still working on. So thank you very much.